End of the fantasy football season. Here's a few tight ends I would drop this week. The first guy, C.J. Uzomah of the Cincinnati Bengals. So Uzomah, I was big on him over the last few weeks, but right now he's going into a bye week here. And the last 2 weeks he hasn't had much production. Week 8 at the Jets, 4 catches, 33 yards. And week 9 versus the Cleveland Browns, 4 catches, 24 yards. I know this season the tight end position very inconsistent and a very weak position, no doubt about it, in fantasy football, where there's only maybe 5 or 6 good and reliable tight ends, in my opinion. So Uzomah, he had a couple week run with this Bengal team. But this Bengal team, I don't know what's going on with them. Their offense got off to a hot start the first 6 weeks of the season, but the last few weeks here, it's been troubling for some of these guys on fantasy rosters, besides Jamar Chase, even though he did have a bad ball game in week 9. But everyone else on that roster, wide receiver or tight end, is just inconsistent besides Chase. So right here with the bye week, and Uzomah not putting up numbers really, he's an easy tight end in my opinion to drop this week. The second tight end is Dawson Knox of the Buffalo Bills. So Dawson Knox was having a great season, no doubt about it. But we don't know when he's going to come back off the hand injury for this Buffalo Bill team. So Knox, he had a bye week to rest. And obviously the hand, it takes a while when it's a tricky injury, no doubt about it. So Dawson Knox hasn't played the last 2 games here now for the Buffalo Bills. And week 10, if he does play, it's a great matchup at the New York Jets. But I wouldn't even stash him as well at the tight end position, he's not, because we don't know when he's coming back. We don't know if he'll be 100% effective. And with the hand injury, you got to be very careful with it, because if a guy goes out there too quick before it 100% heals, especially a catching tight end like Knox, and a guy who has to block as well, that injury could go down once again and could cost him the rest of the season. So right here, Dawson Knox, he's owned in too many fantasy leagues in my opinion, even though he's been a great tight end this season. But he's a tight end I would drop here in more shallower leagues this week. And the third and final tight end I would drop is Ally Cox of the Indianapolis Colts. So Ally Cox, I mentioned him as a drop last week, and not many people dropped him really. He only got dropped in 4% of fantasy leagues from last week into this week. So Ally Cox is a touchdown-dependent tight end, and he really hasn't done much this season without the touchdowns in his ball games. So the last few games for him, week 7 at the 49ers, 3 catches, 25 yards, and a touchdown. Week 8 versus Tennessee, 4 targets, and he did nothing. He got the goose egg. In week 9, in a great matchup versus the New York Jets, 1 catch for 28 yards and 1 target. So right here, Carson Wentz, he likes targeting Michael Pittman. Zach Pascal's been pretty decent, and T.Y. Hilton possibly could come back in week 10 versus Jacksonville. So right here, Ally Cox, he's nothing more than a big body out there for the Indianapolis Colts, and more of a blocker because Jack Doyle's in the mix as well on this offense. So right here, there's no need to have Ally Cox. If you got those good few weeks out of him, pretty good for you fantasy owners. But right now, it's time to move on and get to another tight end on your roster. So that's a few tight ends I would drop here in week 10 of the fantasy football season.